Welcome back to the channel. My name's Tefty. Today we're looking at cheap guitar pedals and how they pair up with synthesizers. I've got the Korg mini log right here. I've also got an OPZ here, OPZ, and I'm gonna be using that just to have some like drums and some other content for some examples to go through these pedals. I'm specifically looking for sonic characteristics that happen when you combine some of these circuits that are very budget friendly, because these pedals range from like 20 to 40 bucks, so very, very cheap. Just trying to see what type of sonic possibilities happen. Also, there'll be some bonus content towards the end that goes a little bit outside of this realm right here. So if you look at the selection of pedals right here, you'll notice that there is no reverb. I did that on purpose because I am not a fan of cheap reverbs specifically. Also because there's just so much quality reverb in DAWs today that I'd rather capture things mostly dry-ish and then add some of my own reverb in Ableton afterwards. So that's a personal preference of mine. I know if you're playing live, that's obviously different, but there's also some amazing reverb pedals out there, but they're usually pretty expensive, like the Big Sky, or you're looking at like a good $300-400 bucks for a solid reverb pedal. In fact, I think all these pedals right here wouldn't even add up to the cost of one of those reverb pedals. But there is some cheap reverb pedals out there, but they're usually, I don't know, I usually like a clean, like a darkish clean reverb, you know, something that doesn't get in the way and doesn't swallow the sound. And I feel like the cheap ones kind of do that. Back to the pedals. I also only have one delay pedal on here, and that's kind of the same reason. There's a lot of great delay options when you get into the DAW, like Ableton, and there's also a lot of fantastic delay pedals out there, but they usually are quite a bit more expensive. This is an analog delay though, from AZOR. So I did want to just throw that in there just to see. Then I do have some tremolos, or two tremolos, and I have a chorus effect from Behringer, and then I've got a bunch of distortion type of options here. I don't know the specific circuitry of all these distortion units. I do like to use these pedals for guitar as well, but today we're specifically looking at synth type of sounds running through these pedals, and what happens, how usable are they? Like, that's the main question I have. Can you take a $30 pedal and how usable will it be in a production? You know, that's the perspective I have for this video. First things first, I think we should look at the distortion stuff. So I'm gonna move some things over here. Let's put the delay, tremolo. Oh, this is a distortion. Chorus, tremolo, overdrive, yeah. A little distortion curve right here. Let's start with the KMISE US Dream. It's a nice looking pedal. It's also metal too. All the Behringer stuff is plastic. Pretty sure it's plastic, yeah. You could huck this at a wall and it would definitely come apart. This might survive, maybe. I feel like this would be more roadworthy, I think. Again, for this test, this is a studio environment. I'm specifically looking at sound manipulation type of stuff that I can get from these cheap pedals. Basically just additional brushes for the palette of making different sounds. We're gonna use the mini log first. I've got a couple patches in the mini log that I'm gonna go back and forth from, so we can kind of have a relatively consistent analysis of how the sound gets warped and changed. And then I do have a cheesy sounding beat out of the OPZ that I'm just gonna route through some stuff as well. Also, I forgot to mention the setup. So I'm using a Voodoo Lab Pedal Power 2 Plus. I've had this thing for years. Mini log into the pedal, into the passive DI box right there. And same thing is gonna be happening with the OPZ. So we need some power. Mini log cable. All right, so I'm gonna turn this stuff down. So this is off right now. Let's see, let's go to the Poly Seek. So that's what it sounds like. Clean mini log sound, and the pedal is off, obviously. We also have the sequence. So we got those options. I'm also gonna be using this bass sound right here. So we can go back and forth, testing that stuff out. But I'm gonna stick with the Polyseek right here. So the US Dream KMISE. Also, I don't know the specific analog circuitry between all these pedals. I know that there is absolutely specific designs that they're modeled after, and I would not be able to tell you that. So if you're looking for that specific information, I apologize. You're not gonna get it from this video. You're just gonna get some examples of how this stuff can affect your tone and sound and all that. Let's put the sequencer on. Let's go full open first. Pedal on, the volume's completely down, so let's turn the volume up. So a definite roll off on the top already happening right there, and the distortion's all the way down. Start turn up the distortion. Ooh, yeah. Let's bring down the filter now. That's a nice curve. Let's crank the distortion. You hear a lot of noise now coming in. That actually sounds really cool. I like that a lot. So anytime you bring in distortion circuits and gain structures, you're going to be bringing up the noise floor. All instruments technically have a noise floor. So all analog circuitry, all that stuff, there is a definite noise floor that is going to get brought up every time you introduce another circuit that's introducing gain. It's just like photography. When you bump the ISO, you're technically increasing the gain structure. So the noise, the inherent noise that's in those pixels, starts coming up as well. Some devices are more noisy than others though, which is really interesting. In fact, I was going to use the OP1, and the OP1 just straight out was having more noise when heavy gain was being applied than the OPZ. And that might be different from device to device, like different manufacturing dates and all that. Possibly like variances of the type of capacitors or whatever the crap, the diodes, electro stuff, blah, blah, blah. Keep that in mind when you are experimenting. Let's play some notes. Obviously a volume gain jump right there. Let's roll the tone off. I think that's really cool sounding. Let's just throw a little bit of reverb on there. The reverb I have patched into my board is a Lexicon MX300. I had to look there for a second. It's what Meems uses when we do live stuff. I have this set up so I can just test some reverb on something really quick. I'm almost always going to use reverb in Ableton once I've recorded something. So that's part of my process on there, just to let you guys know. Let's take that off. Let's take a look at the bass now. Bass without. So nice fat round bottom. Let's go arpeggio on here. slow this down. Okay. It's like the pitch is getting pushed. Oh, you know, I'm gonna tune the mini log just in case. One thing I do notice is that the mini log can take a little bit to warm up with the tuning. If it might have been in tune actually, because it's been on for a little bit, but if it does have some issues with tuning, you just hold shift and hit record right there. Shift record, and it goes back in the tuning process. Yeah. So there was like some weird pitch bend happening from like the, I think the distortion? I don't know, weird. That sounds pretty damn usable to me. I would definitely use that in production. Let's find out how much this thing is actually. All right, on Amazon right now, you can pick this thing up for $17.98. That is a cheap guitar pedal. Wow, it's great. Sounds great with the mini log. I would totally use that in some productions. Let's use the OPZ now and see what type of distortion we get from a loop out of it. So I am using a splitter, tip ring splitter on here, an 1/8 inch TRS stereo cable. And then I think we're only taking the tip, right? Yeah. Now, obviously this is mono. You know, with these pedals being so cheap, you could actually order pairs of them and have stereo processing, which could be pretty cool. Let's turn this on. There it is. Probably have to back off the volume a bit and then plug that guy in. So this is like a full-on loop. It's whatever, you know, I made it on a plane going to Seattle last year. Let's see what happens when we throw some distortion on it. So there's obviously nothing there at the moment. Let's make the tone knob basically noon and start cranking the volume. So again, with that roll off on the top, give it some distortion. Let's back off the volume. Also, let's do a quick test. So there's the noise, the little high frequency. I don't know what that is. In fact, if you know if there's a way to take care of that in line to get rid of that noise and not in software, let me know in the comments. Fully cranked distortion. I don't know how usable that is. This is pretty usable. Ooh, right there. So the clean beat, the left channel of the clean beat. Yeah, interesting, right? Not bad. So, cool distortion pedal. I would totally recommend that. Let's save the, actually no, let's go with the amp modeler right now. Go like so. All right, so once again, we got our sequence. Using the polyseq patch in here. Turn down the drive and the volume all the way. Let's keep the lows and highs in the mid. All right, so levels down, low and high is noon. We got classic mic position, clean gain, tweed. Let's turn it on. Start increasing the level. So this is with minimum drive. Already a huge amount of character change. Now let's start doing the drive. It's breaking up a bit now, which is cool. Huge character change. Let's take some lows out and some highs out. Actually, let's put highs back in. Let's go British. So between Tweed to British, and then California. Various forms of distortion. Take the highs down, bring the lows up. Pretty muddy now. Let's just do a little bit of drive. Put this back on. Just the gain structure too. High gain, hot. I like the clean gain. Different mic positions. It actually affects the tone pretty good. Pretty good. All right, so now we're gonna try some bass on here. Let's drop the drive down a bit, bring the highs back up, and bring the low up. So clean. This would cut. This would give some really nice bite and cut through a dense mix as well. All right, let's go arpeggio again. The TM300 right now off of Zounds is $29. $29 tube amp modeler. Again, it's plastic, so I don't know how road worthy it would be, but for some quick sound manipulation and shaping for your analog circuits without having to go into the computer, it's actually pretty badass. Cool, so 29 bucks, not bad. Let's move on. Quick check with the Z. This cheesy beat again. So obviously some huge changes right there. Let's go back to Tweed and classic speaker positioning. Let me turn the volume down. So now it's like a small speaker right there. Give it a little bit of gain. Man, I think for 30 bucks, it's actually a really cool effect. Just in a pedal. Cool. All right, now moving on. Overdrive distortion, OD300. What secrets do you have, OD300? All right, so drive down. Let's turn the level down. Tone, let's keep at 12 o'clock. Okay. Turn up the volume. Bit on the quiet side. Also, we have overdrive and distortion, so we can blend between two different analog models right here. Really cool. I love the bending effect that's happening right there. Love that. Let's bring interesting, the drive isn't really affecting the level that much. You would definitely have to use a noise gate with this thing. That sounds really cool. I dig that. Again, original. Nice. All right, let's go to the Polyseq. Let's go bring this all the way down. Keep the tone up. Let's go distortion on this, 100%. It's a pretty disgusting sounding, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Sequencer. So again, without. Let's bring the volume down on this. Okay, set tone, bring that down a bit. Start blending in the type of distortion. I think the bass we really liked around here, or I did. Reset the sound. Go back to this. Let's turn the drive down. Tone all the way down. This with some reverb could be really cool. I'm gonna crank the verb on here. I like that. Pretty cool. Let's hear the OPZ in this thing now. So again, drive all the way down. I'm gonna keep the distortion mixed right there. So, cheesy beat. Turn up the level. Cool. Start bringing up the drive. Destroying it. So as you can hear, obviously you can completely mangle a sound. It's distortion, so you already knew that was gonna happen. Let's bring the tone down. Stick with overdrive. Pretty cool. So obviously distortion is gonna be distortion. Like that's clear. But they all have these various little nuances and tone changes to them, like the way certain frequencies will create the clipping, the curve, the saturating, like the soft clip. All right, so that's the overdrive, distortion, the OD300. Let's look at a price check on this baby right here. OD300. $29 also. Next, we got the bass overdrive. It's also purple. The BOD, Bass Overdrive 400. So I'm assuming it's going to be more tuned for low-end frequencies. That would make sense, right? So let's go to tracks bass. Let's bring the gain all the way down, level down, low end, put it at noon-ish. Oh, you also have dry and overdrive. That's cool. Let's hear dry. Yeah, pretty close. So it's, yeah, good. Now let's introduce overdrive. Let's bring it up. So the gain on this, extremely low, like almost without. Like it's just a little bit that you can hear. Let's start increasing the gain. Yeah, there we go. Nice. Let's get some more. It's got a really nice grit to it. Let's mix it. It's cool having a dry wet balance. Let's boost the low end. I wonder if, oh, interesting. So it sounds like the EQ affects the clean signal. So this dry wet knob is only for the distortion. Yeah. Sounds like what, 6 dB, somewhere around there. That's some pretty significant tone change right there. Cool. So that's pretty badass. I like that quite a bit. Let's hear what it sounds like with regular keys. We'll do a blend here, turn the drive down. Yeah. The dry signal is feels like it's almost 1-to-1. Let's throw that distortion in there. Sequence. This is a good overdrive. I like it. It feels pretty full spectrum too. Some reverb. Oh, interesting. The gain knob affects both the dry and the overdrive signal. Yeah, I have no idea how the circuit works. That is dope. Now let's see how the OPZ sounds with it. This is off. So once again, our cheesy beat. Let's go dry, no gain. Wow, pretty close. Yeah, let's get a little fat bottom. Let's go full overdrive initially. Ooh. Major tone changes. Really cool. This pedal so far is very usable for full spectrum type of sound. I mean, it's a bass overdrive, so obviously it's going to be able to take the low ends, but also the high ends seem to come in really clearly. I think this is one of the best ones so far for me personally, between the EQ adjustments and the overall sound of the overdrive. This is a winner right here. Let's find out if it's also 30 bucks. What is the price of the BOD400? $29 off of Zounds. Okay, moving on. Our tour of distortion is coming to a close here pretty quick. We got the Ultra Metal and the Vintage Tube Overdrive. 2 pedals left right there. I could just chain these, but you know, we're gonna keep it nice and basic here. Nice and clean and basic. So we have straight up distortion, we have level, and then various EQ, high, mid, low, and then a mid frequency adjustment type of thing. Let's put all these to noon. Distortion down, we'll put the level down as well. We'll go back to this. Our nice little sequencer here, put this on. All right, so level. Straight up tone curve adjustment. Start introducing some distortion. So obviously, as a metal pedal, ultra metal, the distortion is going to be very intense. It's got great character to it. So let's start bumping the low end. Goes plus 15 on there. And the highs, let's drop the highs. But then we'll bring up the mids. I mean, it's pretty wild what you can get. So OG sound. Let's bring the distortion all the way down. I mean, all these pedals so far I'm finding interesting and usable in some degree. This one, I don't really feel like you can dial it back to having a gentle curve. But that's just part of what it is. Okay, bass. So I mean, that's pretty gentle already. But interesting, like the low end kind of gets sucked out of this pedal, because it's made for guitar, obviously. A little bit of distortion though, it goes a long way on this. I mean, again, I think all this is usable. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't actually expecting this to be usable on bass, but it's actually, I could find sounds to work with that. Let's see what the OPZ sounds like with it. My loop. It's probably gonna be stuck in your head by the end of this video. It's interesting. I have to crank the low end all the way to the +15 to try to retain some of that information, the low end information, and still loses it. Gets scooped quite heavily. But again, that's the characteristic of the pedal. Each one of these are technically EQ curves with saturation. Ooh. Obliterated. All right, cool. I think this would be a fun pedal to just destroy some loops. What is this gonna run you? Probably 29. Yep, 29 bucks. Moving on. We've got the tube screamer thingy. Next up, we're gonna be doing chorus and tremolo and ultimately the delay. Been missing out on that one. Vintage tube overdrive. Our bass sound. We need to turn our drive all the way down. Throw the tone up to noonish. Okay. Retains a decent amount of low end. This one has a lot of character to it. Dry. Okay, so for bass, probably not the most usable. Let's go to the polyseq. The sound. Yeah, it's a nice tone change right there. Okay, sequence. Start increasing the drive. Yeah, it's interesting. This one doesn't bite as much. Of course, I did just come off the Ultra Metal, which had a massive amount of distortion gain to it. It does feel a bit one-trick pony-ish, which I know the tube screamers technically are. Like, it's a tube screamer. It does the tube screamer type of thing. But it's very characterful. It's got a lot of character for that specific sound. Even if you just dial it back. This is dry. And then with. It's pretty subtle. I mean, well, subtle is like subjective. I feel like it doesn't change the sound dramatically, but it adds just enough distortion in there. It's actually pretty cool. Let's try the OPZ with this bad boy. So our loop, in case you had forgotten it. Yeah, there's not as much like clipping that you can introduce with this, but it's cool. Yeah, maybe I guess it's like a vintagey type of feel to it. I like it. I definitely think it's usable. So, a tube screamer. Aren't those things usually like 200 bucks, something like that? Let's see, this thing is $29 for your vintage tube overdrive. So that's all the distortion type of pedals that I have. So I'm gonna put the tube amp modeler at the end as well for some of these, because we got tremolo, got 2 tremolos and a chorus, and then a delay. And I think what would be cool is to hear the chorus by itself, and then with, maybe we could go tube screamer into the tube amp modeler. Try that with this setup. I did like the US Dream though. This thing was nice. Might use that. We'll see. You know what's great about all these pedals is they're so freaking cheap. They could be like, yeah, you grab that, well, cool, whatever. The chorus has 2 outs, by the way, so you can actually have a stereo chorus sound on there. I decided from the beginning this was going to be a mono setup, so we're not going to utilize that. But just to let you know, that Ultra Chorus does have a stereo option to it, which is nice. Throw that back on. We got level, tone, rate, and depth. So let's bring the level down. Depth down, rate really low, keep the tone noon. Interesting. So, yeah. So level, it seems to be a dry, wet knob, not actual level. I mean, it's a chorus pedal, so it's going to be different, but interesting it's labeled that, not like mix or something. So let's crank the level all the way up. Let's take the depth, crank it up as well. Nice. Without. With. It's subtle right now. Let's increase the rate. So if we have this, it's not bad. You know, it's nothing special either. It's probably a pretty average chorus sound to it. I've heard some chorus pedals that really stand out. I think it's usable, but if I was gonna put on like a lead or something, I might want something else. Let's start throwing some other stuff onto it though. Give it a little bit of drive. Now let's throw a tube amp modeler on there. Without, then with. Personally, I'm not really feeling this chorus pedal. I don't know, maybe it's something that's right up your alley, but for me, I don't know if I'm feeling it. So here's bass. Yeah, not really feeling mojo from this one. All the distortion pedals, I was like, oh, that's an interesting sound. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, this one, I'm like, for the sake of testing, let's hear the OPZ. Yeah. This whole chain is interesting, though. Very vintagey vibes type of sound to it. Let's see how much this chorus costs. UC200. $29 also, and I do not recommend it. I don't know, maybe you have a different opinion. Let me know in the comments if you're like, bruh, that chorus is fantastic. What are you talking about? So we've got a tremolo. What secrets do you have, tremolo? So it is currently on minimum, the rate's on minimum. Also, it's cool you have an actual wave shape on there, so you can change that. Again, for a cheap pedal. Depth. Let's go max depth. Let's change it from triangle to square. Okay, so interesting so far. Let's go to the streak. I dig it. Let's hear the sequence. Sequence doesn't really work for that. It's better when you're holding like a chord. Also, this chain is actually working for some vibe. Throw a reverb on there. So. This tremolo is pretty good. It's definitely not the best tremolo I've ever heard, obviously. But for probably 30 bucks, I need to look it up. I'd say it's a pretty good tremolo to be able to use for synthesizers. Let's hear this beat again. Tremolo. Interesting. Nice way of destroying it. Not very usable. It'd be good for like chopping up and like taking some samples off the internet or something and just like completely destroying it, mangling it. That's definitely a possibility. You could easily do that in Ableton though at the same time. So some of these is like, well, you could easily grab that effect in Ableton and get basically the same result. What's nice though is you're keeping it all analog and in the analog domain. So if you're working with analog instruments, you're gonna stay in this domain and be able to work with it. But I am completely aware of the pros of using software, so don't get me wrong. Okay, so that's that tremolo. Let's hear the KMISE real quick. KMISE, oh nice. Tells you what the rate is right there. That's actually really cool. So there's no shape adjustment on the KMISE. But again, I think this thing is probably 20 bucks. Oh, you know, we didn't look at the price of the tremolo. $29. All right, now let's see what the KMISE costs. Wow, $18 also. Let's find out if this is worth $18. Is this tremolo worth $18? Find out right now. Okay. Ooh. This has a nice character to it. Just has a certain feel. Without. Let's throw our chain on. That's pretty usable, honestly. Yeah. Something about the way it's shaped, the way it actually produces that tremolo effect, feels very organic to me. It's the bowl. Clearly this is going to be better, and there's a bowl on there. also 10 bucks cheaper. I don't know, something about it I really like. It just has a really nice bounce to it. Nice. I would totally use that. I don't think I'm going to try out the bass in the OPZ on this because, you know, tremolos, I feel like they're really good for chordal type of stuff. At least for me anyways. That's why I might prefer a sound effect on there. Let's throw the delay into this chain. Yeah, let's throw a delay at the very end. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the sequencer. Dry sound. I turn the mix all the way down on this delay. I'm going to keep the repeats noon and time noon as well. Mix up. Get some high frequency in there. Let me see if this is analog. Oh, it's AZOR, not AZOR. A-Z-O-R. Okay. This thing is $24. $24 analog delay. It says vintage analog delay with true bypass. I mean, it's a pretty basic delay. You just got mix, repeat, and time. I think it actually sounds pretty cool. Let's put the tremolo on. It's a pretty dark delay. My thing with delays is I always want to be able to control the curve, the frequency curve that gets delayed on this stuff, which is another reason why I kind of prefer digital delays in general, because I want to be able to just have specific frequencies that I can adjust and like little tweaks and all that stuff. What's nice though is that with just this little pedal, I can actually do some tweaking sound effects. It's like less of a traditional delay for me and more of a, oh, I can tweak stuff and get sound effects. Yeah. Like if this hooked up to a modular would be really cool. I think that'd be dope. Let's throw this stuff on there. Ooh. Let's hear the OPZ beat in there. All right, we've got our jam. So yeah, this is what's really cool is you have a knob now guaranteed to be able to shape the time, do some weird stretching. This thing slides around all over the place because it needs to be anchored. Feedback loops too. I didn't even mess with that yet. tremolo off. It doesn't really work with that. Yeah, I mean, overall, I'd say it's a pretty decent, cheap delay. I mean, for 18 bucks, right? 18? Oh, no, it's 24, my bad. For 24 bucks for a quick analog delay, like, I think the biggest thing is that you could throw this into a modular setup if you have the power. You know, you do have to give it like regular guitar pedal power. I didn't try bass with it. Let's do that real quick off the mini log. I love the different sound effects you can get with that. Just messing with the delay time. Let's go arpeggio. Yo, that sounds really cool, actually. I like that a lot. Like, some of this stuff I would totally grab and cut it together as loops for using in other productions. You know, it's almost like a sound design session in that sense. So, we have gone through all of these cheap pedals. There's what, maybe a couple $100 here? Maybe 250, something like that, of pedals. I mean, if you were to go like the traditional, ooh, these are the good pedals, like this would be $1,000, $1,500 worth of pedals, something like that, at like $100 to $200 each. If you were getting like high-end type of stuff. In fact, for a bonus session, for just, you know, for fun to see, I can grab a couple other pedals here. Some different ones. I've got a way huge swollen pickle. I've got the Friedman Dirty Shirley. These pedals are nice and they run a couple $100 each, I think. So let's just plug in one of these. We'll keep the chain the same, since this is supposed to be a quick test. This video is about cheap guitar pedals, so we're not gonna go too deep with these expensive pedals, quote unquote expensive pedals. So that stuff is off. Poly-seek. Let's turn the volume and gain down. So just boosting up the gain. It's got a presence knob too. Without. Obviously much louder. I think what I hear is that it's frequency-wise more richer, has more richness in the spectrum, but it's not necessarily better, which I think that's what's really fascinating about this. A lot of the times in music technology, you can kind of get swooned by the fact that this is like an expensive piece or that's like some vintage piece or something like that. When in reality, I mean, these cheap-ass pedals are totally usable in productions. And I don't think anybody's going to be like, man, that was a cool song, but you used like a $30 pedal. And I could hear it. Let's hear this fuzz also. The way huge swollen pickle. I also have the way huge Rhino, which I really like as well. Again, this video is not about expensive pedals. This is about cheap pedals. Swollen pickle. Without, let's turn the loudness down. Filter. The way huge products are very nice, by the way. That's a nice fuzz. throw the tube amp on there. Don't like that. Take that off. So I think same thing with the Swollen Pickle. Again, this is like a $200 pedal, and the Friedman's like a $200 pedal, maybe more. The same thing is that I feel like the frequency response, the spectrum that you're getting out of these pedals, the more expensive ones, is wider and brighter. Or not brighter, sorry. They're just richer, okay? So technically, from a pure sonic standard, I do think they're better. From a musical point of view, I feel like just about all these pedals are usable. The Chorus was my least favorite. This thing did not hit me with that special sauce. If you're in the market and you're thinking about some of this stuff, skip the Ultra Chorus. Maybe there's a better Chorus out there that's cheap. Maybe you guys have recommendations. If you do have any recommendations, please drop them in the comments section. Would love to pick up more cheap pedals. I think it's just been really cool to see how many of these are actually really usable for different sounds and different type of like sound design to get unique feeling saturation curves. Because I really feel like the more saturation tone curves that you can apply to your sound, the more type of uniqueness you can find out of there if you're gentle with it. Obviously, if you smash the crap out of everything with saturation, it's gonna just become a mush, and that's not very usable at all. One of the key characteristics of high quality analog consoles is all these little adjustments of saturations from hitting transformers and op amps and all that, and that creates this subtle, euphoric, good sound that comes out of it. So in a way, some of this can kind of emulate that within little bits and pieces of that. So if you start applying it with that in mind as you're doing recordings with synths, you can have some of that character in there. And I think it's totally worth it. So in summary, making music's cool. I like the pedals. Pedals cool. In all seriousness, yeah, I think a lot of these are totally usable. My favorite, probably somewhere between the Tube Amp Modeler and the Bass Overdrive. Between that, you know, even this overdrive distortion had quite a bit of characteristic on here. Although I think it would be a toss-up between these four right here. The Tube Amp had the most color change because obviously it's emulating an amp, so that's pretty clear. And anytime you run things through an amp or an amp simulator, massive changes can happen from that. So biggest tone changer was the Tube Amp Modeler, and I could see myself using the Tube Amp Modeler quite a bit for things, for adjustments. In fact, I did do that in a jam a few months ago. Can't remember which one it was, but I actually put the Digitone, one of the sounds of Digitone, through the Tube Amp Modeler, and it sounded really cool. I think it was like a sparkly FM sound because of the Digitone. Vintage Tube Overdrive was the least aggressive, you know, and because it says to Vintage Tube Overdrive, but like I thought this was actually going to be more obvious, but this got probably one of the most subtle saturation curves on there. I mean, it's clear that you're using it, but it's not hitting you over the head with this is a distortion pedal. Bass Overdrive was really nice because the frequency spectrum was there with the bass sounds and all that. So I felt like you could probably get the most mileage out of this with different synth sounds that are not specifically occupying that like mid-range guitar type of feel. So Bass Overdrive, awesome. And the overdrive distortion had some really nice colors in there as well. So that was good stuff. Overall, really solid options for cheap pedals out there. Do not be afraid of the fact that they're inexpensive. Maybe don't take them on the road. That I can't give you any advice whatsoever on, but when you see something for like 20 bucks, in fact, this US Dream actually really surprised me. In fact, this one might be one of my favorites too. This had a lot of character. It was very obvious distortion, but man, it was cool. So if you've been using some guitar pedals, whether they're cheap or expensive or whatever, with your synthesizers, I'd love to hear it. Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you've been doing with them. I think it's a really cool way to get some different sounds. All right, guys, that is gonna do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you found the information useful in some way. I actually personally found it useful because I hadn't done a test like this yet, so this was a two bird, one stone type of thing for me. But if you did like it, make sure to hit the like button. That definitely helps the channel and helps YouTube know that you enjoyed the video, especially if you watched all the way to the end. Yeah, and leave me a comment, let us know what's going on, and I hope to see you again soon in the future. Really appreciate all the support. Thank you very much, guys. Deuces.